Hey everyone, and welcome back to Miss Azrael's Gaming. So today we're going to jump back into the Roottrees Are Dead, and we now have a new game plus, which is called RoottreeMania. And apparently there's a secret root tree that we don't know anything about. So we're going to go ahead and see how we do this. I'm assuming we have to start a new game. Yes, we do. Okay, so RoottreeMania, find out what happens to the infamous family and a whole new mystery. Okay, RoottreeMania will spoil unlocked content. Make sure you've tied up any loose ends before getting started. So we filled everything out the first time. So we're going to go ahead and get started. We'll go ahead and save over the game that I had. Oh, somebody's at my door again. Oh, it's
Hi,
the one guy, Clark. Yeah.
Probably not who you expected to be knocking, but life's funny sometimes. You've done well staying anonymous. It took us a while to track you down.
You know, with all that money I would have received, why am I still living in this house?
A lot has happened in the last year. Far too much of it public. But there's stuff going on behind the scenes, too. I never wanted to be president. I'm not great with stress, and with my mother's deteriorating I'm sorry, I'm rambling. I'm not here for sympathy. I'm here because part of the fallout of Sam's book is that everyone's coming out of the woodwork. Now that it's public knowledge the Clancy Trust covers any root tree despite their history with us, a lot of potential cousins have surfaced. You may have seen that man on the cover of News Time. That was a disaster for us. And then Miracle went and made it all about himself. The long and short of it is a lot of potential cousins just showed up. Sam's helping some of them, but she's not really going about it the right way. And she's not taking calls from anyone in the family. I let it slip through a mutual friend that I found you, and I was stopping in. It's manipulative, but I'm hoping she'll reach out to you. You can let her know I'm on her side. In the meantime, if you're willing, I can share our files with you. Pass them along to Sam if she reaches out. I'm genuinely hoping she'll realize I'm an ally. Feel free to do your own research. I've been told you enjoy things like this. To each their own.
Well, if I didn't, you wouldn't be getting any help there, buddy. Oh my goodness. We got another top secret envelope. Less this time. Wow. That is a lot of family tree. Oh, and we got infidelity. Okay, you can open this envelope after the whole family tree has been filled in. You'll have to be extra sleuthy this time around to deduce the truth. Pay close attention to what you find, and be sure to look into loose ends. Oh my goodness, this is gonna be crazy. Possible infidelity 3. 1975 to 1982. So I think they're implying if there was an infidelity, the person might not be part of the family, is what's going on with this one. Okay, so whoever this was, they had... This person's also on the original tree. They had like 3 freaking affairs with... spouses of others? I don't know. That's what that's implying to me. I don't know. They're tied to all the infidelity ones. Oh my god. That's probably I should be old granddad. Probably granddad. And we got 3 bonus photos on that one, so that's interesting. Alright, so let's go ahead and look at what evidence we have. So we have another notable events. Start here. So notable events is the 6 pieces, the Root Tree Rift, Clark Rafferty and LaRoe, 5 Pez, RoottreeMania, and Anonymous. What's with the gold star highlighted? Okay, so today's August 3rd, 1999. It's been 8 months since you helped Sam Madsen with the research necessary for her book. Sam was true to her word and paid you an incredibly large sum of money. She never mentioned you by name, however, so you've managed to keep low profile, only for a year. The Roottrees, on the other hand, have not. Below is a summary of notable events since the book's release, though you can refresh your memory in full detail by searching online. So 6 pieces. Sam Madsen's book about Elias Roottree was released in February. It was a bestseller for a few months at the time. Carl had not yet been replaced. the Roottree rift. In March, the Roottree company stumbled publicly as they attempted to respond to the book's release with multiple conflicting press releases and a clear lack of leadership. Clark Rafferty LaRoe. Clark was announced as the permanent successor to Carl Roottree and welcomed Sam Matson to the family officially. The company hired an outside legal group to handle the changes to the clan's trust. This included any other new questions of lineage. 5 Pez. After this announcement, there was a rash of different people claiming to be Roottrees, mostly dismissed as opportunists and scammers. The highest profile of these, by a wide margin, was a rapper named Felix Fellows, who changed his moniker to 5 Pez as publicity move at the same time. 5 Pez is the only notable person on the updated tree. RoottreeMania. Another high-profile misstep, Miracle Roottree publicly and vehemently denied that 5 Pez was a Roottree. The Roottrees legal team then offered to do a DNA test to get 5 Pez to drop his claim, and in a moment that caught what seemed like the entire world by storm, the test proved he was a Roottree. Suddenly, the world was obsessed with the Roottrees. Anonymom and Jane Doe Roottree. In July, an anonymous woman, who the press began to refer to as Anonymom, appeared in interviews with her face and voice disguised. She claimed that an affair with a Roottree led to the birth of her daughter, aka Jane Doe Roottree. If true, this would make her daughter yet another secret Roottree and therefore entitled to a share of the clan's trust. Nobody knew it at the time, but this would turn out to be the last chapter in the RoottreeMania saga. As more and more of Anonymom's story came out, people began to notice how much it echoed 5 Pez in nearly every significant way. The court of public opinion began to turn, confirming the world's suspicions. The DNA test, orchestrated by lawyers on both sides, proved that her daughter was not a Roottree. This final event caused public disappointment, smugness from doubters, and countless accusations of the entire ordeal being an elaborate hoax or attempt at fraud. Things got a bit ugly, and the fun of RoottreeMania seemed to disappear overnight. Now, a month later, it feels like a distant memory. Okay, so she turned out what she said wasn't true, but 5 Pez is one. Okay, so this is previous on the Roottrees are dead. So this is a new investigation with a focus after many months of newfound interest in the Roottrees. It is recommended you try to catch up with some of what happened since last time. Some web searches may yield new or different results, and some books and magazines from your previous investigation may be relevant to your new one. It's also a much more widespread search. The list of first and last names you can choose from will contain red herrings. Not all of them will be used. Ugh, why do you do this to me? Below is a reminder of some of the most notable beats of initial dive into the Roottree family tree. All evidence from before is still available, and for your convenience, any searches that do not lead to new information still function as they did during your first investigation. The Roottree Candy Company was founded by Elias and Gwyneth many years ago. The entire family has a financial reliance on the health of that company. Most of the action took place in around Butler County, Pennsylvania, where the company was initially located. Elias Carr and Rihanna were on the cover of magazines. Other notable Roottrees, such as Lauren Roottree, Miracle Roottree, and Jim Roottree, had physical media such as record albums, books, movies associated with them. Lauren's 2 diaries were probably the most useful resources overall, mentioning many of her relatives directly. I'm kind of surprised that they didn't bring in Gwen Roottree because she was a movie star, so. But maybe it's just kind of like more about what they did than just being in movies. The 5 pieces, Elias's children, could be identified based on initials of the original candy flavors. There were 5 presidents of the Roottree Company. Many were featured in periodicals. Caroline Morden, Stephanie Jones, and Brian Jones were featured in campaign posters and led to Caroline's art book, which enabled you fill out more of the tree. Many of the younger Rootrees were found by following a complex rabbit hole through a conspiracy site that led to finding a searchable web address for Chris Rafferty, Lauren's grandson. November Roottree was really difficult to place. Her occupation could only be found via Brian Jones' company website. Yeah, that was just a half in a pod, to be honest. Took a while. Ronald and his brother Robert Roottree go by Ron and Robbie. Both worked on a TV show called Brother Trouble until Robbie embezzled money and fled to Paris. Ron unsuccessfully tried to have Robbie removed from the clan's trust. Sam and her father were cryptically mentioned in a book about historical letters. There were also a few dead ends and red herrings, such as Elias Herring Roottree, who claimed he was a Roottree but was not. Family Man, a book about Elias Roottree, turned out to be propaganda and not useful. Lauren's other books, historical romance novels, were not very useful on their own, though could lead to other information. And Caroline Morden's sculptures were not useful. They weren't. Okay, and then we have here, so today, August 3rd, 1999, there was a knock at your door. Clark Rafferty Leroux, the current president of the Rootree Candy Company, explained that multiple people have come out of the woodwork to claim to be Roottrees. He's been trying to work with Sam, but she has not answered his calls. He also handed you a letter that said you could share with Sam, that said the following. To both of you. The company I hired to help us with the Clandon's Trust is busy pouring through the entire family's history, as well as people they may have had contact with. That said, the family is not particularly happy with this, and are doing their best to slow things down. Many of them are actively avoiding our interviews. Every time there's a high-profile public case, it causes headaches. So please, I don't mind if you do your research, but I ask that you stop going to the press. Instead, we have a highly trained team of lawyers to back you up. We're ready and willing to verify anyone and everyone you believe could be realistically part of a relationship that led to the birth of a new Rootree. Just tell us who to investigate by filling in the new sections of the tree, and we'll take the time to handle verifying that timeline checks out. But keep in mind why we're here. If someone didn't have a child or has already been disqualified by our lawyers, like in the case of the girl with the negative DNA test, there won't be a place for them on the tree. We're not just looking for affairs and infidelities. We're only looking for the ones that led to potentially new Rootrees. Some spots in the new section will be marked with a tree icon. Those areas are reserved for members of the original family tree you filled in 8 months ago. Just like last time, be sure to use birth names for everyone you add. Married names or nicknames won't be enough. To start sorting out the infidelities, I recommend you turn your eyes to the men in positions of power. I'd love to say that's only because it would have been a lot harder for the women to hide 9 months of pregnancy and birth without the family noticing, but I can't. I'll be blunt, I'm no stranger to infidelity. I wish I could claim that I was a perfect husband, but you've seen the family tree, so why pretend? Some of us learned how to wield our family name and fortune to our benefit. Consequences be damned. I can't change the past or unhurt those who I betrayed. Instead, all I can do is be honest with myself and to you. Refuse to make any more mistakes, and do my best to sort out the various messes we've left behind. So please fill in the tree, and together we can figure out how to begin to make amends. Good luck, and thank you both, Clark. Well, I mean, at least he's owning up to his misdeeds. Excuse me. Oh, archived evidence. So we've got evidence here. So I guess if you need to go back and kind of look at something interesting. Okay. So let's see. Where do we want to start? I guess we could start at the 6 pieces, which is Sam Madsen's book about Elias Roottree. Oh, I forgot we have to connect to the dial-up. There we go. Now we have everything. Okay, so Sam... how did she spell it? Madsen. Okay, Sam Madsen's book was released earlier this year and detailed the truth about Elias Roottree, as well as Sam's father, Edward Clancy Roottree, and John Miller. You helped verify her story, so much of the book's core contents are familiar to you. That said, Sam had some sections on other family secrets and rumors. Much of it didn't matter to the primary purpose of the book, and some of it is new to you and may be important to your new search. These sections have been added to some notes. I do find it funny that they called her father because they were her adopted. I get that they raised her, but he's technically not her father. Where's my... Here we go. Okay, so that's story items. Let's do this. We'll go with show everything. Okay, 6 pieces. Unwrapping America's Sweetest Family, Sam Madsen. It's funny that she chose that photo. Sam's book has a few different passages about her own history with the company and the rumors and gossip she collected during that tenure. She ran the farm for a period starting around 1968, after the death of Elias Roottree, until her daughter Gwyneth took over in 1984. Most of the relevant rumors coincide with the reign of Guy Hudson, who took over as president in 1978. Sam was very much not a fan of Guy, and according to 6 pieces, it was an open secret within the family that Guy was very much not a fan of remaining faithful to his wife Patricia. Many of their heirs at the time were young, single women, and many of their hires at the time were young, single women, and Guy often spent a lavish amount of money on private parties. This was 20 years ago, and Sam warns that most of it is hearsay. Still, you find the following information that may be relevant. One of Sam's farm supervisors named Elizabeth. Elizabeth had a daughter who Sam never met, but who worked as one of Guy's secretaries. According to Elizabeth, a caterer from a local restaurant called Antonelli's met her daughter at one of Guy's parties, and they eloped quickly due to a pregnancy. Okay. Elizabeth wasn't aware that the party was for swingers. Rumor has it that her daughter showed up with Guy and didn't seem comfortable switching partners. Guy's main positive contribution to the company involved expanding to market previously untapped by Roottree. However, when he went on trips overseas, they often were for weeks at a time, and Guy was known for spending more time and money on unofficial business than meetings with distributors and manufacturers. It was said that he bribed at least one politician to open a factory in Brazil. There's also a section where Sam speculates that Elias may have also cheated on Gwyneth. Okay, so the patriarch of the whole family. Gwyneth was always much kinder to Sam than Elias was, and was the first to invite Sam to family events. Well, that's also because that's Grandma. Grandmas usually tend to, when things like that in the old days, they probably would have had a bit of a softer spot because it's their grandbaby. So I could see her being kinder than Elias was. While she has no hard evidence, Sam always got the impression that Gwyneth was able to coerce Elias into allowing Sam back into the family using some kind of leverage instead of it being a natural course of events. So it could be, look, I know you had affairs on me, so you need to just let this little girl join the family. She mentioned that Elias and Gwyneth were known to loudly argue, sometimes about another woman. Sam also says her son Ernie once asked her, "Who's Beth?" because he overheard them yelling about someone with that name. As far as Sam knows, Elias once had a secretary named Elizabeth, a different Elizabeth than the supervisor from the farm, but she never met her. Dude, isn't that who Guy? Good Lord, didn't fall far from the tree, I guess. But she never met him. Okay, so that's interesting. So we have Elizabeth. Okay, so Guy's definitely scummy. Oh, okay. So Guy Hudson, who was only president of Roottrees for a few years in the late 70s and early 80s, had mostly faded in obscurity, except for the Fancy Flavors debacle. During RoottreeMania, he suddenly rose to prominence again after 5 Pez appeared on the cover of a magazine holding a photo of Guy and his mother. A few people that existed adjacent to the company in the 70s have come forward with stories about debauchery and swingers parties. Guy liked to throw large holiday parties whenever he had an excuse, and they often got very out of hand. This fact has led some people to speculate that the night he died in a car crash, he was drunk or impaired in some way, but the Butler County Police had released multiple statements and ample evidence that proves decisively that it was not foul play and that no party had taken place. Roottrees lawyers have been quick to threaten litigation to anyone who's tried to disparage Guy or the company in public. Well, that doesn't mean that they weren't hit by a drunk driver, but I mean, so obviously Guy is possible infidelity in to 1949, there's 1921. So this is Elias. Wait, do I have to retake photos again? Okay, we don't. But yet we don't have access to the photos? Or are we supposed to... because we can't click on any of this, so we must have to get the photos from something else. So that's about Elias, 1949. Oh no, I didn't add his picture over here. Darn it, I didn't realize I missed that one. Oh, that stinks. Oh well. It's probably something I missed looking up, just like when with his father. Oh yeah, I didn't have the second one for him. Oh, I didn't have one for him either. Oh, that irritates me. Well, who knows? Maybe we'll come across it when we're searching this one stuff. So, let's see. The 40s would probably have been him. 70s, 80s, and 90s. Yeah. This would be this still. Where's he at? This one. Yeah, and him and his wife are the ones that got into the car accident. And they never had any children in the final affair. Family tree up to... Oh, so somebody in the 90s had one. It's probably here. It's probably this dude. Interesting. Okay. Because I hope it's not Carl. I don't want it to be Carl. Okay, the Roottree Rift. Let's see if that comes up. Okay, the 3 press releases from the Roottree Candy Company after the release of 6 pieces were referred to as the Roottree Rift due to the clear conflicts between them. The first was fairly standard. It stated that there was no president of the Roottree Company, but that the entire family was made aware of the release of the book, that they would be meeting as soon as possible. Only then could they verify the legitimacy of the claims it raised and decide next steps. The second release was emailed to business newspapers 3 hours later and announced that after a vote, Ron Roottree would be taking over temporarily as the interim president. It also went on to state that Ron was aware of the book, had verified the claims with him, and would look into compensating Mrs. Madsen and her family immediately. It also stated the company lawyers would be taking immediate steps with the family to revisit the Clan's trust terms to make sure nothing like this could happen again. It was quickly clear to business reporters and analysis that the time between the 2 press releases would not have been logistically sufficient to gather a majority of the family, even using conference calls. This was reported on many news channels, and a third, much shorter press release came the next day. It claimed that a draft of the announcement was made prematurely and that Clark Rafferty LaRoe and Ron Roottree would be taking over as the company's first joint presidents. It also stated that any compensation plan would be based on stringent verification process. Interesting. Okay, Clark Rafferty LaRoe is the new president of the Roottree Corporation. This does not include Root, which appears to have its own new leadership. Well, probably in, what was it, Brenda, I think was her name? If she's got family, probably went that way. In early March of 1999, about 5 months ago, it was announced that both Clark Rafferty LaRoe and Ron Roottree would be taken over for what was essentially described as a transitional period in the aftermath of 6 pieces. About 2 weeks later, the company released a press statement that thanked Ron for his work, but announced that Clark was the new permanent president. Most of the information about Clark you already know. You knew already. Many descriptions of him tend to focus on his advertising career and that his mother was Lauren Roottree. Few seem to touch on his complex and vital marital history. Since taking over, Clark has tried to remain out of the spotlight, but did have one notable foray into the public eye. He gained a lot of support when his first move was a statement in favor of accepting Sam and her family into the trust. This also served as an announcement that the Clan's trust would no longer be handled by anyone in the family, since due to the financial motivation, none of them could even ever be impartial. Okay. Ron was announced as president of the Roottree during the Roottree Rift, but the next press release immediately reversed the announcement and instead stated that Ron and Clark would take over. A few weeks later, Ron was dropped from the title entirely. There are hundreds of results about this development, but most articles are retelling of basic details. Some veer into heavy speculation based on the article about Ron in Business Watch. Ron has also done some interviews saying that the truth of what happened, what went on behind the scenes, is not something he wishes to discuss. Instead, he hopes to release a movie about it someday. 3 weeks ago, Ron's mother, Gwen, died in Paris, France. He and his brother, Robbie, have seemingly made amends. Oh, no. So she just passed away? That's sad. Okay, so Clark Rafferty LaRoe, we did search him. Okay, let's search Sam. So 6 pieces, Unwrapping America's Sweetest Family, by Sam Madsen, was released in early 1999, and perhaps assisted by a still relatively recent plane crash, shot to the tops of the charts. Reviews were mixed, and its time of the best-selling list was limited to only 2 months. Most reviewers agreed that the core of the book about Samantha's fathers and the struggles they faced was compelling and that the takeover of the hypocrisy of Elias Rootree was deserved. However, many took umbrage with the timing of the release and the tone of the book, which seemed vindictive. The fallout from the book led to the Rootree company scrambling to release a statement, and due to a conflict of leadership, famously released multiple conflicting official statements over 3 days. This confusing move was referenced in popular culture due to a late-night sketch about indecisionitis, but more traditional analysis have been calling it the Rootree Rift. After a few months later, due to the RoottreeMania, the book re-entered the charts and sold even better than the first time. Okay, so let's see what this says. Indecisionitis was a disease coined by a popular sketch show as part of a fake pharmaceutical advertisement for Jit Together. While the segment isn't fully about the Rootree Candy Company, it was released in the weeks after their bizarre response to the release of the 6 Pieces by Sam Madison and referenced to recent news. In the sketch, a woman ordered a number 5 at a drive-thru speaker. Then after pulling forward, she changed her mind at the window, asking to switch it to a number 3. This caused a lengthy backup and annoyance among the restaurant's employees and other patrons. After she pulled away as the employees began helping other customers, the same woman then barged into the restaurant and passed a current line, loudly complaining that she didn't receive her number 5. After this, the sketch transitioned from the restaurant scene into a pharmaceutical commercial. A doctor claims that the woman was suffering from indecisionitis, a disease that causes extreme confusion and irritability, and has recently been found to severely hinder the leaders of large corporations, but it could also spread to humans. The doctor then recommends Jit Together, a fake pharmaceutical drug. Multiple testimonials use variations of the catchphrase, "When I can't make my tough decisions, I gotta get my Jit together." The final testimonial included a bald man in silhouette with a voice changer saying, "I'm not comfortable sharing who I am, but I am comfortable saying that before I took over my family's candy company, I really should have gotten my Jit together." Okay, yeah. They were referencing Clark. Interesting. Okay, so that all goes with that. Okay, so let's look up 5 Pez. 5 Pez, aka Felix Fellows, is a rapper who has found some recent radio play after being publicly confirmed as a long-lost Rootree and entitled to part of their fortune. His alias, 5 Pez, is also a play on 5 Pieces. An article you found on a website known for the particular harsh reviews of modern music gives his recent album, Root of All Evil, 1 star out of 7, for whatever reason, with the headline, "More Poser Than My Action Figure Collection." The review mentioned his real name is David, and he used to go by Dirte Davy, and the author rues the fact that his rebranding was a blatant marketing stunt at the expense of his mother's tragic past. She overdosed when he was 16. Apparently, only one of the songs on the album is new, and the others were simply rewritten to turn blatant references to sex, drugs, and violence into clumsy euphemisms. His rise to prominence was kickstarted when he appeared a few months ago on a cover of Newstime, holding a photo of his mother with Guy Hudson. At first, the Rootree company denied it vehemently. Miracle Rootree even appeared on the same magazine a week later. But since then, they backtracked and publicly welcomed him to the family. The press release at the time stated that they had new evidence that confirmed his story, so they had done a DNA test. Okay, so that comes up. Let's see if there's anything else. So, Root of All Evil. Okay, Root of All Evil is 5 Pez's debut album. According to various sources, the album is mostly material that 5 Pez recorded for his mixtapes before he became notable, but re-recorded with lyrical differences and professional production. All Your Problems was the first and only single released. After dropping the single, 5 Pez announced he retained the infamous celebrity lawyer Stevie Whitlock to sue his family. To date, it doesn't seem like he's followed through. At first, the single didn't make much of a splash, but Whitlock, known for publicity stunts, paid thousands of teenagers a few dollars an hour to call and request the video on MTV, which increased its profile. MTV eventually caught on and banned the video altogether, which in turn received national news coverage and made the song even more popular. I gotta see if anything comes up under MTV. Nothing, okay. Let's search the song. There we go. This track is the only new song on the album. The subject matter of the song is the hypocrisy of those that claim money is evil. He points out that the only people who think money is evil are those that have it, those that can afford not to be greedy. In the song, Five Pez triumphantly talks about taking the Roottrees' wealth due to it being his birthright and giving it to those who need it most. You find a copy of the song on a suspicious-looking website and download it for your records. Well, that sounds stupid of me. Let's try this one. Okay, according to fan sites, Felix Fellows is not Five Pez's actual name. His birth name was David Fellows. Dirty Davy was Five Pez's previous stage name. He used to sell records and perform live shows in Portland under that name. There are some people selling his old mixtapes in auction sites. One is apparently called Dirty Devil and another Dirt Poor. Okay, so let's look up David Fellows. Okay, so we got the same thing there, but we know his real name. Not that. I don't want that. Let's look up these other ones. Okay, Dirty Devil was Five Pez's first mixtape released as Dirty Davy from the early 90s. There's discrepancies and debates about what year exactly it was released based on some of the pop culture references, with the range thought to be somewhere between 1992 and 1994. One of the songs, Yes I Can Jump, seems to be at the center of the confusion. Some fan sites claim that there are multiple versions with different track lists and some links on them. Song links on them. Though because there's very little evidence of the mixtape online as it is, it's even harder to verify that information. Okay, so let's look this one up. Yes I Can Jump is a song that was Five Pez's mixtape's Dirty Dave. It seems to be the only song that didn't make it into a studio album that people thought should have. In it, he references a popular movie from 1992 called White Men Can't Jump. This reference has caused some confusion among the fan base. Because of it, it is agreed upon the mixtape had to come out in 1992 at the earliest, but others point out that Fellows referenced seeing the movie on his 17th birthday. This would have been in 1994. Some take this to mean that the album had to have been released in 1984 at the earliest. Others claim that he was likely just trying to make himself sound older in response to some of the more questionable lyrics. He has stated multiple times that he was just a dumb kid when it was released. I'm going to see if there's like a reference, because sometimes there's Easter eggs to some of these. Okay, so no, that just went back to that. Okay, let's look up Dirt Poor. Dirt Poor is a mixtape by Dirty Davy, released in 1996. There's a lot of online discourse from people who like to point out that in one of the songs, Felix Fellows includes someone that would be relevant to his own distant cousin, Rhiannon, in a list of attractive women. The lyrics in one of the songs, Heat, mentions a few different prominent female actresses, models, and musicians from the 90s, and provides a crude pun or line about what Fellows felt about them. When re-released in 1999, much of the rhetoric was toned down to less overtly profane, and the line referencing Raina was clumsily replaced by Dana, a reference to a character from the X-Files. Okay, let's look up this one. Okay, nothing from there. Let's see if that comes up. Let's look up X-Files. Oh, dang, nothing with that one. Okay, so this didn't lead us anywhere. Definitely a lot more rabbit holes we can get down to. We've looked up this. Okay, let's look up news time and see if we get anything from that. There we go. We get a periodical. Okay, so News Time is a majority news periodical that releases a new issue every week. The rapper Five Pez famously appeared on the cover, claiming to be a Roottrie. Then 1 week later, Miracle Roottrie did the same, denying that he was. Because of his high-profile back-to-back discourse right before the start of RoottreeMania, they appeared to be the de facto publication to get news about the ongoing Roottree saga. They reported record subscriber numbers during this time, which lasted until the end of RoottreeMania, when the world generally stopped paying much attention and they went back to reporting on more traditional news. So New Times appears to be available at your periodic search. Okay, so we added that to it, which I figured that might, help. Photo of Guy Hudson with his mom. We looked up Guy Hudson. Miracle Roottrie. It seems Miracle Sr. is going on a new tour of the United States in late 1999. The previous flyer for 3 generations of Miracle has been replaced. Be a part of history. The oldest living root tree reprises and retells his incredible true story. Miracle Root Tree grew up as one of the famous 5 pieces, living a life of wealth and luxury, but fortune has nothing compared to the powerful force of the Almighty. Doctors determined he was destined to die young, but fate had different plans. He's lived a long and fruitful life. However, he's now in his 70s, and his age is beginning to make life on the road more difficult. So consider this your last chance to see him in a town near you before he settles back down in Pennsylvania. In this intimate evening, Miracle will reminisce about his famous history. He'll discuss his family's saints and sinners and provide a unique perspective on one of the most notable families in the United States today. Learn what originally drove him away from his fortune and into the arms of religion, and learn how his life has become more wealthy in spirit than it ever could have from his inheritance. The site also lists the church he will be appearing in and mentions that tickets can be purchased at the local services. Notably, absent are any mention about Miracle's news appearances. All Your Problems, 5 Pez. This is the only single from 5 Pez album Root of All Evil. It received some airplay, but didn't make a big splash critically or commercially. Still, it's kind of catchy. Lyrics. Attention, attention, Roottrees. This is 5 Pez coming at you from the real world. You know, the place you ain't never lived in. You say money is the root of all your problems. Root of all your problems. Hypocrites sitting back in your massive estates built from the cash that your ancestor gave you, acting like you somehow deserve it based on your family's creations. But looky here, sonny, don't you come for our money, or you might burn bright in hellfire someday, like that Madsen chick and her 2 dads. My pappy's clenched trust should keep you away. Like that Madsen chick and her... Oh, okay, he's talking about Sam. Yo, it's disturbing catching a sermon from a geezer who's never known hurt, but blurts out these claims that somehow we're sinners because we didn't earn it, when all your worth it came free with your name. You expect me to treat your lectures on greed as some expected creed, he without blame. How about instead I turn my other cheeks and spread them? When you give me a kiss, you know just where to aim. You say money is the root of all your problems. Let me take those problems away. Whoever calls dollars the root of all evil, just trying to make small pursuits of real people. Your silver spoon feeds you the world's purest treacle, while real world folks burn their spoons for the needle. So once more with passion, tell this poor tragic orphan how your mansions and Porsches are actually horrible, how I'm better off penniless grasping for morsels, how one in my share that's actually extortion. Your candy-ass name's synonymous with sweets. Oh, you want to call me classless, some gangster from Portland. But I play that game. I came up on the streets. The only streets you reppin' are Park Place and Boardwalk. Your hypocrisy monopoly, it's toppling. When I knock, have Jeeves top off my pockets, please. Because the same God that got to steal my mom from me, it's what he wants right for you to live in poverty. And if you're suddenly not eager to unhand that fortune, that's unfortunate. I guess I'm going to have to take my portion. I'll do it all legally, class actions, courtrooms, decorum, my way past your fancy-ass doorman. You say money is the root of all your problems. Let me take those problems away. Bring the choir in. You say money is the root of all your problems. Let me take those problems away. You say the money is the root of all your problems. Let me take those problems away. Whoever calls dollars the root of all evil, just trying to make small pursuits of real people. Your silver spoon feeds you the world's purest trinicle, while real world folks burn their spoons for the needle. Whoever calls dollars the rest of root of all evil, trying to make... Okay, so he just repeats all that. I'm not going to repeat all that again. That was a massive song. Not seeing anything useful in it, personally. My pappy's clenched trust should keep you away. Yeah, I don't see anything that actually stands out. We could have, I wonder, here, hold on.
You know, the place you ain't ever lived in.
You say money is the root of all your problems. Root of all your problems.
Y'all are hypocrites.
hypocrites, sitting back in your massive estates, built from the cash that your ancestors gave you, acting like you somehow...
Okay, so just heard a little bit of that because I do not want to play the whole thing just in case, because we all know how YouTube can be. All right, so we've got, oh my god, I feel like I haven't gotten anything. Although 5 Pez is gold starred, but we're not, that's odd that we don't have a picture of him. So let's see, maybe from here. There we go. Okay, Felix Fellows, aka 5 Pez, famously appeared on the cover of News Time, kicking off RoottreeMania. Then a week later, Miracle Roottree appeared on the cover of the magazine, an article that focused heavily on 5 Pez as well. A summary of both articles, as well as close-up a photo of 5 Pez is holding on the cover of his issue, have been added to your evidence. I mean, it did turn out he is a Roottree, but that doesn't prove nothing. That just proves that they knew each other. Okay, so 5 Pez, aka Felix Fellows, appears on the cover of News Time, holding a photo of his mother and Guy Hudson. The article concerns this incident that his father was Guy Hudson. The story was dramatic and sensational and initially dismissed as fake until a DNA test proved that he was related to Guy Hudson. 5 Pez says that his mother, Joanna, was Zach Morden's secretary when he retired. And then Guy Hudson's secretary for only 1 or 2 weeks after that before she quit. The first few weeks that he was president. His parents divorced when he was 4 after his father learned of the affair. Felix and his mom then moved to Portland because she was afraid for her and her son's life. He grew up with her until he was 16, but one day his mother never came home from the movie rental store where she worked the register. The next morning, they found her dead from an overdose in a car. She'd stolen all the cash from a drawer and spent it all on heroin. As Felix went through her belongings, the only things he had to remember her by were a hairbrush she always used, some photos, and a stuffed animal from her childhood. But then he found it, a box hidden in the back of her closet. Inside were love letters and photos related to Guy Hudson, as well as a letter from his father containing threats. He threw it all away, with the exception of the one photo he appears with on the cover of News Time. He appears with on the cover, he says it was the only one where they were dressed, the only one not from the affair itself. The picture is shown in full inside the magazine and was added to your evidence. The magazine also included some additional history about 5 Pez's career. He was born Felix Fellows to Riley and Joanna Fellows, but has never rapped without a moniker. He tried to find success by opening for other artists and even by selling CDs on street corners in Portland. He has only recently started going as 5 Pez to harness the power of his lineage. The writer did some research into the truth of these claims and was able to confirm that Joanna did work for the Roottree Company as a secretary during the early to mid-70s. It also confirmed she died of a drug overdose and that Felix went into foster care soon after. They were unable to track down his father. They also reached out to the Roottree Company, but at the moment the company's blanket statement was, since the release of the recent book, Roottree has seen an overwhelming number of false ancestral claims. None have been factual, and nearly all have been knowingly dishonest. We encourage individuals to reach out to us in an official capacity as opposed to attempting to use our name in the media for publicity. Oh my goodness, that's so funny. Charlatans and thieves. Miracle Roottree appeared on the cover of News Time shortly after 5 Pez did. He vehemently denied that 5 Pez was a Roottree. This article is from before the DNA test that proved it. Miracle doesn't focus much on the details of 5 Pez accusations regarding his mother and Guy Hudson. Instead, he comes across as exhausted at the events that have been going on behind the scenes, as well as the characters of those he feels are attacking his family. He starts with 6 pieces content. He says that although most of the book was based in fact, it left out anything that wouldn't fit the agenda. He points out Sam's daughter still earns a generous salary for overseeing the farm division of Roottree, and that Sam did the same before her. That Sam's family was not destitute, and that really it was only her son who chose to take on a job with no salary. He claims that though they didn't have to, the family helped pay for her son's medical bills after voting that it was the right thing to do. Miracle also says that the story about his father Elias shunning EC was one-sided, leaving out Edward Clancy's blame in the whole thing. Elias gave him a simple ultimatum: stop sinning or be disowned. Miracle says it was EC's own choice, and that Elias allowing him to earn food and shelter on the company's dime was a kindness, especially considering that he and John continued to live together. Miracle then pivots to the fallout from Six Pieces. He recounts a deluge of claims to the clan's trust that the family have been subjected to. He doesn't cite any specifics, but says that every time someone comes forward, the family dissolves to arguments. They've had to hire an outside legal team to help. But so far, every case has been demonstrably laughably false. All they do is tarnish his family's reputation. He focuses on Five Pez, who appears on news time before him. He calls him a grifter and a delinquent and says he's using their name and products to sell filth to the masses. Of all the accusations, he says this is the most dangerous because it exposes the world to hatred. He cites Five Pez lyrics as violent, sexist, and ungodly, and prays the boy will repent and retract his lies and find religion. Lastly, he turns to the future. Miracle states that those who wish to hear the true story can join him on his farewell tour this upcoming fall. The Miracle Roottrees are planning on touring the country's churches one last time, and now that age 71, Miracle is the oldest living Roottree. While he plans to continue preaching in his own church in Butler County after the tour, this is your last chance to hear the truth from the man with the most complete recollection of one of most America's notable families in your hometown. The article mentions that Miracle's son, Miracle Jr., did not wish to comment and has a statement from Clark Rafferty LaRoe through the Roottrees law firm. Miracle does not speak for his entire family. We're working carefully on a plan to definitively disprove any claims of infidelity in our family's past. The article also does not refute Miracle's claims that he's the oldest living Roottrie, despite Sam Madsen being born the year before him. It was unclear if Miracle made the claim out of ignorance or spite. Okay, the Clan's Trust is a Roottrie company's unusual legal arrangement and motivation for most of their major financial decisions. As a recap, the entire family earns inheritance directly from the profits of Candy Company, as well as their sister clothing company Root with the period. This means that nearly every Roottrie can potentially have a say in the company's high-level operations. Historically, this has caused the family to be slow to approve any major expenditures that could significantly dig into the profits. After the release of Six Pieces by Sam Madsen, the Clan's Trust came under heavy scrutiny. Sam, her children, and her grandchildren should have all been covered under the trust according to the wording revealed during an internal family conflict between Ron and Robbie Roottree. It seems that those who wrote the trust, Clancy Edward Roottree at the direction of Elias Roottree, purposefully deceived the rest of the family about the exact details of how it worked, in an attempt to keep Sam and her father Edward Clancy, his own twin brother, in comparative poverty, because the rest of the family made money hand over fist. They had very little motivation to question their understanding. Sam's book revealed this to the public, and it did not go over well. Clark Rafferty LaRoe took over the company, and his most celebrated moves was his first official one. He ensured Sam's family would get their share. To help facilitate this, the inheritance aspect of the trust is now under the control of the third party, Ruby Legal Enterprises. This ensures that the financial motivations of Roottree family members will not interfere with the investigations into potential new Rootrees. According to Clark's letter, however, some family members are still doing their best to slow the investigation by refusing to answer questions. Ruby Legal Enterprises is the name of the law firm that has been hired by the Roottree Candy Company. The company is named after its head lawyer, Ruby Spratt. You can't find much about the company from before this year, though. All the articles tell the same tale. After the fiasco of the Six Pieces and the revelation that the Rootree's internal law group is complicit in such a cover-up, they hired outside counsel. The Ruby Legal Enterprise Group now seems to have ties to multiple aspects of the Roottree Corporation, including the Candy Company and Root. They were recently in the news due to a high-profile lawsuit they raised against Celice Sanchez. Ruby Spratt, like her legal company, is relatively elusive. The most complete source of information you can find from before her time with the Rootrees is from the website for a magazine owned by a major airline. She is the subject of the article from a recurring series about modern-day success stories. Ruby grew up in foster care, but excelled at school and earned a scholarship to study at Mid-Eastern University. There, she graduated at the top of her legal class and was quickly hired as a lawyer for a prominent firm. There are a few high-profile corporate-involved cases she was a part of. One was a legal consultant for a class-action lawsuit against a manufacturer of steering wheel covers. Another was to help local gas station chain in her hometown of Portland with the rollout of a promotion that allowed gas station customers the ability to bet on the price of gas. The blurb ends by calling her new firm a double threat. Her company's services are a cross between a traditional lawyer and a PR manager. Cicely Sanchez is an author best known for Portrait of a Changed Man, released in 1979. Her follow-up, Foreign Gospel, 1984, did not perform as well critically, but still sold quite respectfully. She has written a few more books since then, including a biography on Van Gogh, but her first two are her claim to fame. According to the site about authors, Cicely is known for her nonfiction with a focus on exploring darkness in the human psyche. Recently, Cicely appeared in a magazine called Pocatee, with an article about a book she had been commissioned to write for Guy Hudson. The magazine and Cicely herself were immediately issued a cease and desist due to its inclusion of pictures that she never had the right to publish. This issue was poured from the store shelves, making it an instant collector's item. Oh, I'm glad I clicked on that. Okay, the portrait is a catalog of flower with an outline edge of its petals. Okay, so about a book she'd commissioned to write for Guy. What was the book? I wonder what the book was called. Cicely Sanchez. I don't know if I'm going to be able to remember how to spell it. Oh, shoot. Portrait of a Changed Man, maybe? It was. This book's description has this to say. What if everything you stand for, everything you know to be true today, could disappear in an instant? All of your politics, relationships gone in a blink of an eye. Would you still be you? Cicely Sanchez tells this powerful true story about a man who woke up after being saved from drowning in his backyard pool and became an entirely different person, including an interview from those that knew him best, as well as a one-on-one chat that paints an entirely different picture. You won't be able to put it down without wondering, what if it were me? Okay, so let's try her in the periodicals. Spelled that right? Yes, Sanchez. Okay, News Time briefly covered a lawsuit between Ruby Spat and Pocatee magazine surrounding Cicely Sanchez. They said that Cicely didn't have the rights to redistribute the photos in the magazine of Guy Hudson. Pocatee apparently announced that they would be pulling their issue the following day, the moment that Ruby Legal Enterprises threatened them. This caused the issue to sell faster than any other magazine in history, though only for a day. Even people that would never have normally purchased it went out of their way to buy one, just in case it would be worth something someday. It especially caught the eye of conspiracy theorists who assumed that anything worth suing over would have to be hiding something. An expert legal analysis from Newstime states that it was unlikely that Ruby could have had the story pulled if it had gone to court, and Pocatee likely got more eyes on it than it would have if the Roottrees just ignored the story. I've got to figure out what this is in. Doubt it's in that, but there we go. Pockety magazine is a publication that, as far as you can tell, has no consistent theme. It tends to contain tabloid-esque articles that appeal to a wider variety of audiences, and appears in many grocery stores near the checkout line. Unlike traditional tabloids, it doesn't typically feature celebrities on the cover. Instead, it tends to latch onto and create sensationalist headlines about whatever subject appears to be popular at any given time. In recent years, this has included Beanie Babies, Magic Eye images, and even Red Bull. It has often come under fire for printing fiction along with facts. Pockety gets around this by stating in every issue that all its articles are all the hearsay that's fit to print. At one point, Pockety ran an article about Cicely Sanchez, an author. She claims to have written an unread book about Guy Hudson. The article is not even the main focus of the issue. It's the magazine was threatened legally by the Roottrees Corporation. That particular issue, the Big Sass Seabass issue, was pulled from shelves. It has now become a collector's item, especially amongst the conspiracy theorists attempting to figure out what the Roottrees company was hiding. You find a recently finished online auction that listed a copy at over $1,000, though nobody bid. In an issue that focuses on a talking toy fish and the demonic messages it supposedly said as the battery ran low, Pockety had an article about a canceled book by Cicely Sanchez. The book's subject was Guy Hudson, and the issue was said to contain pictures that Cicely did not have the right to publish. Because of the pictures, this issue was pulled from the store shelves, making it the subject of some conspiracies and an instant collector's item. Due to this recall, the version found in these archives is incomplete. Roottrees family picnic. Once again, doesn't mean anything. They're just standing there. The rapper Phi Pez appeared on the cover of News Time holding this Polaroid of his mother Joanna when she was Zach Martin's secretary at a company picnic. He claims that Joanna and Guy Hudson, also in the photo, were having an affair that led to his birth. I mean, she didn't seem thrilled, but... This was the issue of the Pockety magazine that contained an article about Cicely Sanchez. The story concerned an unreleased book she had written about Guy Hudson. It seems that it used photos of Guy that Cicely did not own the rights to publish. Unfortunately, the magazine was issued a cease and desist by the Roottrees lawyers. The magazine was pulled from shelves, and the version you found in your periodical search had the relevant pages removed, rendering this magazine useless, unless you want to read about a potentially demonic toy fish. Damn it, this does not help me. Man, this one is definitely a lot harder than the original one. Anonymom was the second high-profile case after Felix Fellows of a potential new Roottrees being added to the clan's trust. Instead of claiming herself as a Roottrees, she claimed she'd slept with Guy Hudson and that her daughter was a Roottrees. The accusation came during the height of the RoottreeMania and began with a brief TV interview. She appeared in the shadows of disguised voice and promoted an article by herself in News Time. In the TV interview, in the article, she referenced to her daughter as Jane Doe Roottrees. The name Anonymom was not self-inflicted. It seemed to spring up originally because nobody knew how else to refer to her. The day after the News Time article, Sam Madsen publicly supported Anonymom due to some parts of the story she found particularly credible. With the momentum from Sam's endorsement, Anonymom went on a media blitz. Ultimately, this backfired. As more details came out, people became skeptical of her story due to the extreme similarity to Phi Pez. Her accusations even included many of the same details as his mother's story. This included her job, secretary, in the time period late 70s. After fumbling the 5 Pez stories so publicly, the Roottrees were more prepared to handle all Clan's trust-related issues. Within a week, a DNA test proved that Anonymom's daughter could not be related to the Roottrees. This was announced at a joint press conference with lawyers representing both Anonymom and the Roottrees. Each party ensured their respective clients provided accurate samples. Immediately after the negative results were released, many of those who had already been skeptical felt vindicated. Others who had built up hope that history would repeat itself after 5Pez felt duped. Many people suspected the whole affair had been a hoax to gain fame and money. Many demanded that Anonymom be held accountable, and some people began to attempt to track down her true identity. The Roottree company felt pressured to put out the second statement to try to curb some of the backlash, even going so far as to say, though it was scientifically proven that Jane Doe Roottree is not a Roottree, this does not mean that her mother and Guy Hudson were not involved in an affair. She had every right to make her claim, as it had been verified that her stories about Guy were not exaggerations. Please leave their family alone. Many people claim this high-profile, anticlimactic, and public backlash was the beginning of the end of the RoottreeMania. Since much of the fun was the shared fascination about secret Roottrees, others think that, like any fad, it just ran its course naturally. Regardless, this was the final notable event related to the release of the 6 pieces, and things soon went back to normal. Jane Doe Roottree has already been eliminated as a potential new Roottree by the company's lawyers, who are the ones verifying your work. Anonymom's affair does not appear on any of your updated trees. Okay. All right. Well, we know this was a guy. In which was he the 4th? 3rd. Although I don't know how we know which one went where. I'm assuming it's her. Oh, God, what was her name? It's in the article. Joanna Fellows. She was a secretary. Her spouse, I'm assuming it means at the time, was Riley. What's his real stupid name? It's David. Yeah, David Fellows. Family tree update. Maybe it's Stephanie because she was pregnant at the time. And that would make sense because she should technically... She looks like she's probably one of the oldest. Although it shows that her... That's right, her kid's married. So let's look up Stephanie. There we go. Okay, it seems Brian Jones has been busy updating Stephanie Jones' campaign website. 2 new sections exist. The first is a baby photo. There you see a picture of their new family together in the hospital. According to the site, our daughter was named after her grandmother, which ended up being very fitting considering she was born the night before Christmas. The second is what's next. There's not much of a substance there right now, but it lists some small accomplishments and finishes with the recent rise in popularity and controversy surrounding my extended family, there's been some extra attention on me. Stay tuned for announcements in the coming months about how I plan to use this publicity to accomplish bigger and better things. Okay. Aw, cute. Oh, they put a little baby. They put a little Santa hat on her. It's so cute. Okay, it says Brian John posted this photo of his family together in the hospital following the birth of their newborn girl. His new daughter is wearing an adorable little Santa hat, and his wife Stephanie is giving her signature thumbs up move from her campaign literature. Okay, well that's an easy one to do. So this is... little baby. Okay, so they named her, they said after the grandmother, Caroline, Eloise. Our daughter was named after her grandmother, which ended up being very fitting, considering she was born the night before Christmas. Carol. I bet it's Carol. Like Christmas Carol. Occupation. Baby. Oh, I got it done. Okay. Well done. So now we do have to do 4 every time. Riley, Brian, photo. Booyah. Oh, knock on the door. Hello?
Has Clark reached out to you?
I thought you were sick.
Well, let me give you a short history lesson about the last few months of my life. 3 different people contacted me, claiming that somewhere in their history, they might be Roottrees. First, that young man, the rapper. I ignored that one. He seemed dubious. But then I saw the news. I felt terrible. So I began helping the others. Because my doubts with Felix were so misfounded, I ended up putting too much faith in the second person that approached me. I went to the media prematurely.
That was the one that wasn't.
I admit my mistake there. But the third person who contacted me also had a credible case. Before I could help, the company got to them somehow. The fact that the family silenced them doesn't seem to fill me with hope when it comes to Clark's intentions. But you're making progress based on the leads he gave you. It's really hard for me to get a read on him. I'll let you handle it. I've sent you the case I've been working on, and some company records I managed to track down. The records are quite dense, but hopefully they're useful. Good luck.
Oh, goody. I love dense records. Okay, company records. 1975. Okay, these go from 75 to 84. So you were given some partial staff records to cross-reference by Sam Madsen. These records are based on old tax mailing information and only detailed the employees that work directly for Roottree or in corporate offices. The many laborers on the farms and in the factories are not listed. You're not sure how helpful to be, except for there's cross-referencing guys, secretaries, and visits overseas. Spider searching people just because they are listed in these books will likely be very time consuming and a waste of your time. Okay, so leadership, President Zach Morton, special management, Ernest Matson Jr., office staff, Edward Roottree, Lloyd Carpenter, Carl Monroe, Elizabeth Cravensworth. Elizabeth? No Elizabeth, okay. Product management, Eli C. Roottree, Fred Cross, Albert Cross, Douglas Rosenberg. Secretaries, Juliet McCullen, Julian Robertson, Doris Mays, Beth Knox. Now that was brought up before. Farm and manufacturing, Samantha Matson, John Miller, Elizabeth Farrow. There's another Elizabeth. Thomas Green, Fred Gleason, Stuart Todd, Sam Herman, Robert Lagoon, Michael Crane, Jack Keaton. Major expenses, none. I'm going to highlight that one. And highlight Beth. And Elizabeth Cravenworth. So we have 2 Elizabeths and a Beth. Actually going to highlight things this time. In 1977, it was announced that Zach would be retiring and Guy would be taking over at the start of 1978. They held a retirement party in November before spending the final month working on the transition. During 1976 and 1977, the following changes took place. Leadership, Guy Hudson has replaced Ernest Matson Jr. as special management. Officer staff, 1977, Patrick Decker was hired. Product management, 1976. Eli C. Roottree is no longer employed by Roottree. 1977, Ernest Matson Jr. is now listed under product management. Secretaries, 1976, Christine Farrow was hired. Same last name as Elizabeth. 1976, Joanna Robertson is no longer listed amongst the secretaries, but a Joanne Fellows has been added to the list. 1977, Joanne Fellows and Beth Knox are no longer employed by Roottree. Possibly. 1977, Christine Farrow is no longer listed amongst secretaries, but a Christine Garland has been hired. So that says to me she got married. But it says hired, so... But what are the odds that they have the same name? It could be she quit and then joined again. Farm and manufacturing. 1976, John Miller is no longer employed by Roottree. 1976, Gwyneth Madsen was hired. Major expenses, 1976, Beth Knox 50-year work anniversary bonus. Okay, so that would be Granddad's. The Patriarchs. Little Dirty Secret. 1977, Zach Morton retirement party. 1978, Guy Hudson took over. This began a particularly volatile period in the company's staffing. Many traveling expenses were listed, and Guy began trying to develop new 5-piece flavors. The following changes are recorded. Leadership, 1978, Guy Hudson replaces Zachariah Morton. Office staff, 1979, Edward Roottree, Elizabeth Cravensworth, and Lloyd Carpenter are no longer employed by Roottree. 1979, Rafter Tunes is now listed as an office staff. Product management, 1979, Albert Cross and Fred Cross are no longer employed by Roottree. Secretaries, 1978, Christine Garland is no longer working for the Roottrees. 1978, Beatrice Watts and Coraline Schwartz were hired. 1979, Juliet McCullen and Doris Mays are no longer employed by Roottree. 1979, Lisa Lewis and Valerie Inwing were hired. Farm and manufacturing, 1978. Thomas Green, Michael Crane, Elizabeth Farrow, and Jack Keaton are no longer employed by Roottree. 1978, Emily Seinfeld and Sam Cottrell were hired. 1979, Robert Logan is no longer employed by Roottree. 1979, William Sams was hired. Special Services Interpreter, 1979, Susan Ford was hired under a special category that only existed for 1 year. Okay, let's mark Susan Ford, because we need to highlight these, because I have a feeling there's going to be way too many women. Okay, major expenses, 1978, Presidential Office Refurbishment, $52,000. 1978, 5-piece flavor development, caviar, $10,000 a month. 1978, Edward Roottree Retirement Party, $7,500. 1978, Christmas Tree Bash, $7,500. 1978, New Year's Eve Ball, $7,500. 1979, travel expenses, Australia, China, France, Brazil, $190,000. 1979, 5-piece flavored development, butterscotch, $10,000 a month. 1979, 5-piece flavored development, caviar. Look, you had it with butterscotch, dude. This is disgusting. $10,000 a month. 1979, 4th of July Spectacular, $7,500. 1979, New Year's Eve Ball, $7,500. You left out Christmas. You did it up here, but skipped it here. The volatility continued. Many new employees didn't tend to stick around very long. The following changes were recorded. Office staff, 1980, Terry O'Connor was hired. 1980, Susan Ford is moved to office staff. Product management, 1980, Douglas Rogensberg is no longer employed by Roottree. 1980, Edward Morrison and Robert Andrews were hired. 1981, Edward Morrison is no longer employed by Rootrees. Secretaries, 1980, Coraline Schwartz and Beatrice Watts are no longer employed by Roottrees. 1980, Linda Lewis and Angela Ingram were hired. That name is so familiar. 1981, Lisa Lewis and Valerie Ewing are no longer employed by Roottrees. 1981, Catherine Garrett was hired. Farm and Manufacturing, 1980, William Sams is no longer employed by Roottrees. 1980, Emily Seinfeld is no longer employed, but an Emily Barnes is now listed. So she might have got married. 1981, Gwyneth Madsen is no longer employed, but a Gwyneth Cottrell is now listed. Married. Special Services Interpreter, 1980, Susan Ford no longer works in this department. Major expenses, 1980, 5-piece flavor development, strawberry, $10K a month. Good choice. 1980, 5-piece flavor development, what? Zingua? $10K a month. I can tell you that's bad. You can't pronounce it, you can't eat it. 1980, 5-piece flavor development, butterscotch again at $10,000. 1980, 5-piece flavor development, caviar, $10K again. 1980, New Year's Eve Ball, $750, $7,500. 1980, 4th of July Spectacular, $7,500. 1980, Christmas Tree Bash, $7,500. 1981, 5-piece flavor development, strawberry, $10,000. 1981, 5-piece flavor development, Zingua, $10K. 1981, 5-piece development flavor, butterscotch, $10K. 1981, 5-piece flavor development, caviar, $10K. 1981, New Year's Eve Ball, $7,500. 1981, 4th of July Spectacular, $7,500. 1981, Christmas Tree Bash, $10,500. 1981, Grandorf Dove donation, $250,000. What the frick is Grandorf Dove? The Grandorf School for the Deaf, formerly Grandorf Dove, is located around an hour for the Roottrees offices, used to be in Butler County, but it serves much of the part of Pennsylvania and nearby Ohio. Okay. According to the website, it was formerly called Grandorf Dove from 1923 to 1990. Because Grandorf was the last name of the founder and Dove is a Danish word for deaf, the founder had issues with government translators leading to an odd transcription issue. In 1990, it was renamed to better represent the school's purpose and to correct the embarrassing lack of effort and awareness demonstrated by the government officials in those early days. The staff is listed on the website. You scan through all of the biographies and find that the principal, Miss Ford, is fluent in 5 languages, including ALS, American Sign Language. She has been working at the school for over 15 years. Miss Ford's bio also mentions she's not deaf herself, but rather learned sign language to communicate with the deaf. It mentions that she was responsible for securing funding for the Hudson Wing. Okay, hold on here. Susan Ford, Miss Ford. He donates $250,000. It's the first donation ever. The Hudson Wing was an expansion of Grandorf Dove, now Grandorf School for the Deaf, first built in 1982. It's a separate, much smaller building, half a block from the main campus, and operates as a smaller independent school that offers free ALS courses for the family members, friends, and caretakers of deaf children. According to their history site, they got their name after the president of the Roottrees Company generously donated $250,000 towards the construction of the building. There's also a very vague history section that you can somewhat fill in with details from other information you've seen about the school. It mentions that the donation came at the insistence of an employee of the Roottrees at the time. It mentions that she learned ALS from the main school before the Hudson Wing even existed. To surprise her future husband, who was deaf, after realizing how useful a service like this could be to non-deaf people that wish to better serve those with hearing issues, she convinced Roottrees management to invest in the school. The Hudson Wing opened and she became the first teacher at the new campus. At first it only operated on weekends, but since it has added afternoon classes on the same week now. Is she involved? in an affair or not. Interesting. But nothing on Susan Ford. Okay. Just kind of funny how that was just out of the blue, and then she, like, no longer worked there. Well, she'd been moved to office staff. She wasn't a secretary anymore. Guy Hudson died in May of 1982, so the first few months of that year continued along the same pattern as they had been. Things quickly changed when Ernie took over. Most of the extraneous expenses ended, and all the secretaries, most handpicked by Guy Hudson, were let go. Sam Madsen left Roottree in 1984, so this is the last set of books you have access to. The following changes were recorded. Leadership, 1982. Ernest Madsen Jr. replaces Guy Hudson. 1983. Carl Roottree joins as special management. Office staff, 1982. Susan Ford is no longer employed by Roottree. 1983 and 1984, no change. Product management, 1982. Ernest Madsen Jr. no longer works in this department. 1982, Douglas Rosenberg was rehired. Secretaries, 1982. Angela Ingram, Linda Lewis, and Catherine Garrett are no longer employed by Roottree. 1982. From here on out, no secretaries are directly employed by Roottree. Roottree instead uses a temp agency called Work Time Temp. Farm and Manufacturing, 1982. Victor Logan was hired. 1983. Stuart Harmon is no longer employed by Roottree. 1983. Amy Sutton was hired. 1984, Sam Madsen is no longer employed by Roottree. Major expenses, 1982, 5-piece flavor development Sugar Plum, $20K month, canceled after 5 months, $100,000. I mean, that sounds like that wouldn't be so bad. 1982, 5-piece flavor development Strawberry, $10K, canceled after 5 months. The Zyguium, $10K, canceled after 5 months, $50,000. The Butterscotch, $10K a month, canceled after 5 months, $50,000. Caviar, $10K a month, canceled after 5 months, $50,000. 1982, New Year's Eve Ball, $7,500. 1983, Fred Gleason 50-year work anniversary, bonus $50,000. And 1984, Root clothing reimbursement, Carl Roottree, $1 million. Okay, Fred Gleason doesn't come up. I was just curious because it seemed like his 50-year work anniversary bonus. Let's see if this comes up. Work Time Temp. Work Time Temp is a company with many offices all over the United States. The Roottree Candy Company is listed on their site as one of the companies they do business with, though it's far from the only one you recognize. As far as you can tell, there's no connection between Work Time Temp and anyone related to your search. Okay, well, that works. That works too. Okay, so Regina Clementine email. 6 pieces at prodigy.us, genealogy genie at prodigy.us. This is all the information I have about Regina Clementine Nee Salazar from New Orleans, Louisiana, and her husband Stuart Clementine. She wrote me about a month ago. Apparently, the Roottree lawyers went after her since then. By the time I received her letter and called her, she told me she couldn't cooperate anymore. Her husband, who is a police officer and never knew his father, told her he thought he might be a Roottree, but is estranged from his family and didn't want to pursue it because he had no proof. She wrote to me behind his back. Normally I wouldn't be so sure, but she had some pretty credible facts. Some of it I've been able to confirm. Stuart's mother was named Mary Beth Clementine. She was pretty well known in the 30s to 50s, a singer who went on tour to a lot of churches. Oh, Miracle? Miracle. This is you, isn't it? This is you. Isn't it? I bet you it is. Bet you it is. Because singer who went to churches. You can look up her online. And she was a pretty big proponent of adoption. I know for a fact that she came to Butler County a few times. I remember her from when I was younger. And Regina said that Stuart told her that they always seem to spend a lot of time at the Miracle Church. She sent me a photo to prove that she's who she says she is. I've attached it to this email. Sam Madsen, 6 pieces, Unwrapping America's Sweetest Family is out now. Please consider saving a tree and not printing this email. Aha, too bad I printed it anyway. That's probably her husband, and their kids. This photo was given to you by Sam Madsen. A woman named Regina Clementine came to her and claimed that her husband has confessed he thinks he's a Rootree. The details of this case can be found in your evidence. Stuart is the older boy wearing a vest. The woman in the photo is Mary Beth Clementine, a singer who may have had an affair with Miracle Rootree. You bastard. I knew it. That's definitely... Miracle. I'm pretty sure it says in the Bible that ye who are without sin cast the first stone. And you're going to, come on to this kid for saying he's pretty sure he's part of your family when you know you were stepping out? That's not cool, dude. All right. That's funny we don't include his partner, but I guess we didn't with him either. Let me go back to this and really? They said we could... Didn't it say we could look her up? Oh, the woman is Mary Beth. Regina was the woman that sent it. Mary Beth's a singer. There we go. Okay, Mary Beth Clementine was a singer most popular in the years between 1942 and 1959. She traveled around the country performing at churches. Her repertoire was a mix of religious and popular songs. And although she recorded a few records, they seemed lost to time. The only one you find mentioned was a cover of He's Got the Whole World in His Hands, released under the label New Edison. One thing Mary Beth was known for was her adoptions. She listed on many sites that mention adoption and the history of adoption. She adopted 2 children in the 1940s, Stuart and Mark. She also spoke as the advocate for the benefit of adoption in front of the United States Congress in 1949, who were convening to debate and discuss the then recent first adoption of an African-American child to a white family in the United States. She was specifically there to detail her experience going through the system to adopt Stuart. Her son was adopted later, and according to a single line on one adoption site under unusual circumstances. In 1959, it surfaced that Mary Beth had been twice divorced, both times to her manager, Sterling. This ended her career with the religious audience she'd been catering to. And while she performed occasionally since then, she mostly faded in obscurity. Mary Beth passed away in 1994 at the age of 76 of a stroke. But if he was adopted... Her son was adopted later, according to a single line on one adoption site, under unusual circumstances. But if her son was adopted, then there's no way that guy's part of the Roottrees. Because if both of her kids were... New Edison was a small record label based in Los Angeles that existed for a few years in the 40s. It raced to release cover records of songs that were gaining popularity. According to a website about the history of recorded sound, it was named after its founder, Sterling Edison. Its biggest claim to fame is being sued by the estate of Thomas Edison in Edison Records versus Insel. You also find a few references to New Edison and Mary Beth Clementine on sites about old records. One collector says that the Holy Grail is a re-release of the old Rugged Cross, and says that the first edition was originally published before she illegally changed her name. She must have been Mary Beth Edison then, because Sterling was her husband. Another site claims that the police had to be called to New Edison Records after its owner, Sterling Edison, got in a physical altercation in public leading to a divorce. There are no cited sources or evidence, and the site's contents seems user-submitted. There's an email address at the bottom, and the phrase, "Send me your stories about old Hollywood, and I'll add them to my page." Okay, nothing there. Edison Records was one of the first record labels named after Thomas Edison. The history of the company seems very unimportant except for a potential lawsuit they filed in 1949, Edison Records versus Edsel. A website about lawsuits mentioned this as a fun case because the name of the lawsuit was actually the biggest problem for the person being sued. A record producer who called himself Edison was immediately outed as not actually being named Edison. Edsel was a German last name, and at the time of the founding of the company, the U.S. was at war with Germany. The company's founder immediately settled to try to get the case to go away, but the damage was done. So it's Sterling Edsel then. Oh, for Pete's sake, I just typed a whole bunch of gibberish. Don't really know how much that does, but he went by Sterling Edison. Yep. Be a musician. Okay, so Stewart, was that his name? Yeah. The youngest son's name. Mark. I don't know what Mark does, though. Sometimes that popular last name, he managed to find a Stuart Clementine listed as one of the main names on the emergency service website in New Orleans. It seems he's a police officer. He has no web presence. Okay, Mark Clementine. Crocodile Clementine is listed on a website titled The Infamy List. It's a massive list of criminals who are known for odd crimes. Although Mark's nickname would apply, he hails from Florida. A lot of others on the list come from there, or Australia. Mark is listed as from being Los Angeles. He has a pretty big entry. He seems like a real piece of work. There's a very small note about him being the basket baby of 1950, but most everything else seems from his adulthood. He lost his job in 1975 as a pilot for a regional airline after he tried to board the wrong airline's plane. He was drunk. He was charged with trespassing and assault. In 1982, he was arrested for transporting smuggled animals over the Canadian and Mexican borders for illegal reptile supplier in Los Angeles. He was apparently quite successful for the first 4 years, but was caught when he had to make an emergency landing in Portland after he was bitten on the foot by a crocodile, hence the nickname. Apparently, the Portland Telegraph is credited as having given him this nickname. His mugshot from this incident has been added to your photos. In 1993, he was released on parole, but his freedom didn't last long. He was arrested in 1994 in San Diego for violating it as an attempt to visit his daughter's graduation. He famously punched the principal, a man named Billy Sims. The incident received national press. See if this is anything we can use. Okay, yep, Portland Telegraph. Portland Telegraph is your run-of-the-mill newspaper based out of Portland, Oregon. They have a website with a lot of dirty statistics. Good Lord, I cannot read, and I don't know where dirty came out of that. They have a lot of website with a lot of dry statistics about how many subscribers they have, how many issues they have been in, there have been, and awards they have won. The website doesn't appear to have any useful data. Billy Sims is the principal of Sandstone Canyon High School, who had his 15 minutes of fame in 1984 when he was punched by Crocodile Clementine at a graduation ceremony. Pretty much every news organization, from trustworthy to tabloid, seem to have their own take on the altercation. It wasn't the punch that captured the nation's attention, however. Instead, it was Billy Sims' matter-of-fact response to the threatened comments afterwards, as heard in a now famous audio clip from someone who was recording the ceremony. Billy saw Mark hop onto the graduation stage and said, "Sir, you want to sit down or we'll have a problem." At that point, Crocodile reportedly sucker punched him in the face. Billy, apparently only slightly dazed, said, "All right, sir, I guess we'll have a problem." Clementine tried to throw another punch, but Sims anticipated it and performed a maneuver the spectators described as a wrestling move mixed with a backward somersault, which immediately brought both men to the floor with Sims straddling Clementine, keyed him neutralized. As security arrived, the recording captured someone asking, "How did you do that?" And Sam's response was famously, "Trust me, I'm as surprised as anyone." That is funny, Crocodile Clementine. Okay, there's nothing there. Infamy list. Basket Baby of 1950. A few sites about true stories focus on and around religion, mentioning that in 1950, a gospel singer named Mary once found herself dealing with a real-life baby Moses situation. Apparently, she was a prominent supporter of the concept of his adoption, and someone decided to test how much. They left a baby on a doorstep in a basket. According to the site, she adopted him without question and raised him as her own son. Although it wasn't national news in many circles, he became known as the Basket Baby, and he even went on tour with her as he grew up. None of the websites state whom the woman or baby were, likely to prevent people from looking into either of the people too closely. From context, you know that it's Mary Beth Clementine, who would later be shunned due to her personal life, and her son Mark, who would later be known as Crocodile Clementine. Maybe that was Miracle's baby. I mean, he just shows up on a doorstep. Okay, I don't see anything else from this. Oh, he's a miracle. 100%. You found this mugshot online. It's Mark Clementine, who was arrested for smuggling reptiles into the United States. 100%. 100%. Can you have a job as a criminal? What the freak would his job be? It's funny, he's a police officer and he's a criminal. Unless he has a job now, but... I gotta change her. She was a cashier. Gotta be more about Mark Clementine. Okay, so the Portland Telegraph was one that provided the nickname Crocodile Clementine and has some details about Crocodile Clementine's first major arrest. He was flying weekly between Los Angeles, Juarez, and Vancouver in a small plane. His flights were very low, literally under the radar. He was only caught because he was bit by a crocodile in the leg and had to call in a mayday because he was losing blood. He tried to tell them he was a crop duster who somehow cut his leg on a loose piece of metal in the cockpit. But his story seemed very odd, and controllers quickly alerted the police without informing him. When he landed, they were waiting, and he was promptly arrested. Here we go. News Time did a small piece about a fight between Sims and Crocodile, but tried to approach it from a different perspective. Their goal was to paint a picture of two men involved from others who knew them best. Not only did they manage to interview Sims' wife, Carla, as well as multiple staff members at his school, but they hunted down Colleen Webb, Mark's ex-wife. According to the section with Colleen, she and he met when he worked for an airline. She worked in the airport newsstand. He was a drinker and would often have wild mood swings. When he was charged with assault of a fellow pilot in 1975 and lost his job, they divorced. At the time, she was pregnant with their second daughter, and she felt she needed to get out before things got worse. She left him and moved to San Diego to live with her sister and told her oldest that her dad had to fly planes for the Army. She raised them both by herself, and although she never went through the trouble of changing their names legally, they used the web name so that nobody would connect them to her ex-husband. Okay, so he was a pilot, but I don't know if that gets to count now. What was it? I just forgot her name. Colleen. Yep, Colleen Webb. Okay, those have to be right. Do I have to... Maybe 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Like, that's like 5. That has to be correct. Okay, Pocahontas magazine is kind of sleazy, so they're not afraid to publish a few details that more reputable news publications normally wouldn't. You look up the Billy Sims incident, and it seems they did report on it. You gain a few more bits of information, though it might not be useful. Billy Sims was once arrested for throwing a Molotov cocktail at a company that was found to be testing their products on animals. According to paperwork, Crocodile Clementine's bail was paid for by Tesorito Jacobson. It was fairly expensive. Pocahontas interviewed other students that were at the event to find out if anyone knew anything, and the word going around was that Mark Clementine showed up because his daughter Mary was graduating that night. So Mary Webb. Viego's Fiesta, a regional Mexican fast food chain, held a competition in 1993 that offered free meals for life to anyone that legally changed their name to Tesorito. The Tesorito was a burrito with a cylindrical tostada shell inside the flour tortilla. According to a few sources, Torstito Jacobson used to be named Lucinda. It was like his girlfriend or something. Okay, I don't know if that really had anything to do with anything. Okay, Mary Webb in San Diego has a website called Web on the Web. Apparently, it's a personal travel diary that also doubles as an advertisement for her travel agency. Their descriptions of Mary's services, including booking flights and cruises, almost all of them involve extremely niche audiences. It seems Mary is the #1 agent when it comes to booking spiritual vacations aboard ghost ships and in specific hotel rooms that are said to be haunted. She also has a dedicated section for more traditional modern cruises that cater to specific groups such as fans of boy bands. In the diary entry, she talks about trips she's personally taken and uses that as an opportunity to feature descriptions of amenities and excursions that the ships offer, even when you're on them to see a specific band or ghost. There's also a picture of ships, hotels, landmarks, and places she's visited, as well as a picture of Mary herself with the ship in the background. One of her diary entries actually mentions that day that the photos were taken. She was allowed onto the ship on a port day in San Diego with a professional photographer she knows. The photo of Mary has been added to your evidence. Mary Webb from her website, Web on the Web Paranormal Travel Agency. She's apparently found a niche booking vacation for lovers of the strange and unknown. This is a photograph of Mary in front of a alleged ghost ship from the 1800s. It was lost at sea and turned up without any crew several years later. Nobody knows exactly what happened, but fans love to tour it and come up with their own paranormal theories. A company called Corporation Composition Photography is listed at the top. Let's see if that's anything. Corporate Composition Photography is a photography studio that was listed on a few different sites for businesses in San Diego. It seems to have been possible to hire them to take professional quality photos for businesses of all sorts. As far as you can tell, it appears to no longer exist. The company had also mentioned the photography site with some IRC chat logs. It seems like the site is the personal page of a member of IRC photography channel. They have archives of logs they've been saving since 1993. One of them was from 1996 when Val, the former head of photography from Corporate Composition Photography, did a Q&A with their users about taking pictures with promotional material and print ads. Most of the questions and answers are pretty technical. They not only seem irrelevant, but generally go over your head. One of the questions, however, mentions that Val was the owner on the cover of Telephoto and asked about Iraq. The question was quickly shut down by the person running the Q&A, who says Val does not wish to answer any questions from his photojournalism days, nor does he wish to talk about LBP. Please keep this on the subject of the commercial photography. Oh, now I need to know. When searching for LBP, you get a wide variety of results. LBP seems like it can stand for Lebanese pound, also known as lira, lower back pain, lead-based paint, low blood pressure, Louisiana-born pharmacy, Long Beach Peninsula. Some businesses also have the acronym LBP. Your results include Lynch Building Plastics, Luxury Bridal Photography, Lexington Business Payroll, Lincoln Baby Photography, Laura's Bras and Panties, and Login Books and Publishing. I mean, he could be one of those, but it probably also doesn't mean anything. IRC Photography Channel. Okay, nothing with that. There feels like there's just an overwhelming amount of information for this second part of the game, and you like get more crap than anything. So that was on the cover of Telephoto. Telephoto is a photography magazine. I mean, I don't know what any of this is going to do for us. Yeah, I don't know where Telephoto is going to go. But at least we have it. RC chat logs. What are those? Nothing. I just dived down a massive rabbit hole. I don't know if Mary's married. But I think she's the youngest because it was brought up in something. Okay, let me there was mention about her having her name having changed. She legally changed her name, so let's look at this one. The old record cross is a popular hymn that has been covered by many, many artists. You won't find much relevant information about it online. Let's see. Let's check here. How about this one? Mary Beth Clementine released the old record cross for New Edison, and it was advertised quite a few times. When it was first reviewed by the magazine, however, it listed the artist as Mary Beth Quaker. But yet nothing. So maybe we actually need this last name. Yep, that's what it was. So I just had her name wrong. It's funny, it still won't finish hers. So maybe I have something wrong on that one. Let me go back to here real quick. Was it this? No, it wasn't that. It was, the LBP. Let me look up. Let's check these out, see if this is anything. Oh, good. The first one I picked. So, Lincoln Baby Photography seems like a solid lead. As it mentions Val, an award-winning photographer on the page. It's a business in Beacon, New York, and on the site it has a picture of a baby and a camera caption with Cam Lincoln reaching for his namesake. I guess he takes after his father, Val. At the bottom of the website says copyright 1998 to 1999. This picture has been added to your evidence. Cam Lincoln. So maybe Val Lincoln? I mean, I just happened to pick that one first, but I got a little lucky. The only Val Lincoln with any kind of web presence is Valerie Lincoln, a realtor in Michigan. As far as you can tell, there's no connection to Valerie in the Roottrees. Okay, I mean, that works out. But let's check. Okay, luxury bridal photography is a photography business, which is a good start. Unfortunately, it seems like it's located in Ireland, and its owner is Nicholas. He goes by Nick Luxury, but you doubt that's his real name. It's very unlikely that he's related to what you are looking for. I want to look up this one just for shits and giggles. How do you think this would be relevant to your search exactly? Regardless, there's nothing to do with the Roottrees here. Aw. Okay. Oh, how adorable. Oh, he's got a little suit on. So cute. Okay, and he's a baby. Okay, I still don't know if that's the mom. Val. We got Val, I believe. So his last name's Lincoln because we had Cam Lincoln. Okay, so I need to try to find the other one. I can't remember what I found that listing on. It might have been one of the periodicals. Ex-wife Colleen Webb. She worked for an airline. Her sister and told their oldest that her dad had. How do I know what the oldest is? Nothing on Mary Webb. I don't know how to find the sister. I'm trying to think. Oh, you know what? I didn't look up Val, even though I already have the baby. But this came up with him, so. Oh goodness, I cannot spell. Val Lincoln was featured in a telephoto. The cover, which featured one of his photos, as well as a portrait of the article, portions of the article have been added to your evidence. Maybe we can find his wife from this. Okay, Telephotos of Photography magazine. This 1992 issue focuses on the photos of Val Lincoln, a photographer who went overseas during Desert Storm. He won the Sepia Award for photojournalism, specifically for the photo on the cover. Val got his start in high school when he took a photography class because, in his own words, he couldn't decide what else to do and thought it would be the best career in the world to shoot for Playboy. But he quickly found he had a knack for it and began to skip lunch and his free periods to spend more time in the darkroom. After graduating, he tried to pivot to landscape photography, but didn't have a passion for it. I work much better when I'm trying to tell the story of a person or an object. He got lucky when a photographer mentioned a mentor of his was going overseas to cover the war, decided to take a chance on him. Oh, that's why you wouldn't talk about it. Most people wouldn't call it lucky to go to an active war zone for no pay, but he bought my plane tickets, all my meals, and even pulled some strings so we could rush my passport. For someone that had never had a real job or even left California, it was a hell of a break. Val was only 19 at the time and shot the photo that won him an award the third night he was there. The photo depicts Lisa Clementine, who lost an arm in an Operation Desert Saber. According to the article, women were not subject to direct combat, and Lisa was in the vehicle at the time. The vehicle had to pull over suddenly when the road ahead was partially destroyed, and she and a fellow soldier were severely injured by the landmine. Val says, I ran into Lisa just after surgery and took this picture. Then, until she shipped out, I kept finding excuses to go back and take more pictures of her. I guess it was fate because that's the photo that won me an award, got me into your magazine, and also led to my engagement. Just earlier this week, she agreed to become Mrs. Lincoln. Okay, so Lisa Clementine, we finally got a name. Okay, but supposedly they went by Webb. Now, she could have changed that when she got older. And she was obviously in the military. I wonder if it should be Webb. She's referred to as Clementine, Lisa Clementine, so maybe. Although you think that would be 4, but I must have something wrong on hers. That's the only thing I can think of the reason it has not closed this one yet. I mean, it closed him, so I don't know why it wouldn't have closed that. So, let's try Lisa Lincoln. Lisa Lincoln is, according to a military website you found, an amputee who lost a limb in Desert Storm. She runs a support group of fellow veterans in Beacon, New York. She makes another appearance listed as a professor at West Point, a military college, so technically she's a professor. She teaches classes that contribute to their environmental engineering major. Her short biography on the staff page mentions that she had a passion for the military from a very young age due to erroneously believing that a family member was an Air Force pilot. While she later learned that to be untrue, her passion remained, and she joined ROTC in high school. From there, she enlisted. After returning from Desert Storm, she earned a degree and relocated to West Point to teach a few years ago. Okay, so she's actually a professor. And so maybe she's Lisa Lincoln now? I don't know if we need to put them... which names we need to put them by. It's the only thing. If she needs to go by her maiden name, or if she needs to go by her married name. I'm not entirely sure which one she needs to go by. Let's switch to Clementine. And I think hers needs to be Clementine as well. Because that's technically their last name. Okay, I think those are all correct, but for some reason it's not. Maybe it's not supposed to be fellows. Let's try Robertson. That's what it was. It's because I didn't put her maiden name in there. Okay, extracurricular activities. Locked in possible infidelity number 2. Excuse you, knock.
Sam reached out to me finally. I think I have you to thank for that one. My family's in a bit of a rough patch. Even though the candy is selling better than ever, everyone is fighting over the trust. The majority of us want to dissolve it. On paper, it seems like the right decision. The arguments about what to do next are endless and heated. More than a few Roottrees are worried about losing their wealth. I don't think we deserve it more than anyone else. I love my family, my wife, my daughters, even my son, who I hardly ever get to see.
He has a son?
I want to keep them safe
yep,
and secure, but I didn't do anything to deserve this fortune. Hell, I probably deserve it less than most. It took me way too long to get my life together. Okay, enough about me. Here's the deal. I can't stop the majority from voting one way or another. If you keep passing along potential Roottrees, I'll keep adding them to the list. On the other hand, there's been some leaps forward in genetics. It may sound like science fiction, but we can actually determine who's in the family just by testing their DNA. What you've done so far has been very useful. Just keep filling out the tree and we'll prepare for the tests.
Love to see the look on Miracle's face. All right, everyone, we're going to go ahead and end it there. Hopefully you've been enjoying the second playthrough of the Roottrees Are Dead, which is RoottreeMania. And we have already filled out the second possible affair. We did the first one over here with Guy Hudson because it says possible 3. And he's had multiples. That one's going to probably take a bit of time. And we also got the family tree updated with Stephanie and their new baby. So I hope you've been enjoying this second playthrough. You know, it's a lot of fun going back into this game. and trying to figure things out again. So we've added some more people who might be Roottrees for the majority to vote on and decide. I guess we'll find out what happens in the next episode. Please leave me a like, subscribe if you haven't, and I'll see you next time. Bye.